Okay, so what we want to do in the last few minutes here is get your advice about what they should think about and what they should ask digital marketing service professionals or agencies to determine whether they should work with them. And so I want you guys up here to not be self-promotional, but to talk as though you're speaking informally to a friend in the audience. If you were really sincere and saying, here's what you really need to ask, here's what you really need to think about, this is what you need to look for. Okay, so go. Oh, you need a microphone.
I can yell. No, go ahead. I have a loud voice, I can yell. Don't be afraid to ask for references. That's key. I think a lot of people sometimes forget that. Don't be afraid to ask who the agency or partner's competitors are, what makes them good, what makes them different. And I like to say, if I'm vetting someone, I'm okay to say, go ask the competitor what they think about me, right? Like if you're me versus my main competitor, I'll say, go to that company and ask them what they think about me. I love the feedback, and I'm not afraid of competitors. I know some people are, but it's good to be open and honest like that.
I can give you 4 T's. So first T being the team. You kind of want to meet the team, especially if it's a local company. You want to know what kind of people behind the scene that's actually doing the work, right? Are they all internal or are they outsourcing some of that work? The second thing is the training. What kind of training program do they have? Do they have some sort of a formalized way to onboard the team that's going to do the job of managing a marketing campaign? And then kind of the track record of success. Do they have anything that they can show forth in terms of what they've done in your industry in optimizing and managing campaigns for clients just like you? And then also the technology and tools that they use. Do they have anything proprietary or custom made or something of that sort that they're using to manage and show forth the actual success? So those are kind of the 4 T's that you should probably consider thinking about when you're talking to an agency.
And sometimes it comes down to, what are you not telling me, right? So how long is this going to take? How long should I do this, right? Some people want this short-term solution. We're in this microwave society and we want it now. But what we're talking about up here is not something that happens fast. One of the things that just happened with the whole paid ads concept, how do you work on optimization? And then for you as a business owner, what engagement is expected from you in this process, right? So some business owners just want to set it and let it go. But to truly optimize properly, you need a partner that's going to engage with you in the conversation to make sure that they're executing on the strategy that fits for the way you want it to be executed within the marketplace.
Absolutely. It's what he said, absolutely, and everybody piggybacking on what they said, but it is knowing what is the process and what's the expectations and the deliverables. What are they going to deliver? All right, you need to know that, because a lot of times people come in also, as far as clients, with a preconceived notion of what needs to be delivered. You want to make sure that you're on the same page and that you cover that. And also, what do they do to understand the onboarding process? What is that onboarding process so that they can understand your brand? You do not want to work with somebody who's going to tell you, this is your brand and this is what you need to do and this is who you serve. You're the expert at your business. You need to have a process in which you share your expertise with them, and there's that open line of communication.
What about sort of finding the right fit? So it may be that you have agencies that do great work, but they do work with a different type of client, or they're going to be less interested in working with you because you're small or your budget's not big enough or something. Can you comment on that? Pass the mic around here. Pass.
Absolutely, and it's something that Brett and I were talking about earlier. There are times where if the fit is not right, the agency shouldn't take your money. And there are other times where some of you, as we've talked today, are in really unique situations. So understanding what is this conversation going to be like, has the agency worked with somebody like you before? And again, what's that entire timeline going to feel like for you? As Maria said, what's the original deliverable, but then what's the rest of it? So how engaged do you need to be? Again, back to optimization. And there are, in certain competitors, there are people that will have more experience in a particular industry or in a vertical. There are a lot of agencies out there that specialize. They only work with restaurants or whatever the other industry might be. So be aware of some of those types of things.
Yeah, I think specialization is the number one thing that I'll point out as well, because there's no learning curve on the side of the agency because they're not learning on your dime. Because if you're working with somebody who's just a master in everything, major in nothing, they're going to spend a lot of time and energy learning about your product, your keywords and everything, and then that can really put you behind on schedule in terms of getting to success.
People want.
As a very small business owner and just getting started, how much money should we anticipate investing into our business to get going in terms of marketing strategy? Maybe I missed that earlier.
Well, so as you have an agency sit down with you, they should be helping you identify what are you already working on. And as you saw today and heard today, there are certain times where an agency can help you optimize tools that are available to you without a lot of time invested. But as a business owner, what's your time worth, right? So often, if you could spend a couple $100s a month where you didn't have to deal with all of this stuff going on, is that worth it to you? And for a lot of smaller business owners, that's where they want to start, is with $200, $300, $400 maybe might be a spend area that a lot of business owners will work with, because they'll see that as worth the investment to have somebody else who can execute on the strategy and not have to spend that time themselves. And for that process, one of the other things is, and I know I mentioned earlier, is there a contract involved? What's my commitment financially long term? Right? We were talking to somebody else earlier, and they partner with somebody who does a website for them. And they got their initial cost on a website, but now every time they want to change something, there's another cost. So what's your full potential expense going to be as you're working through that process when budget's important for you as a small business owner?
If I can add another thing, one of the ways to look at your marketing investment, not in the form of okay, I'm going to spend $10,000, look at the cost of acquisition or cost per lead. So if you think your average deal size is $50,000 or $100,000, then you want to ask yourself, how much am I willing to invest to get a lead? And how much am I willing to invest to acquire a customer? So think about it from that perspective, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm a small business, so I cannot afford a lot. But if your product, if you're selling a product and you know that's going to add this much additional revenue, then you have to see how much am I willing to invest to get that additional customer.
So how about red flags? How about some things that might be, if somebody says them or suggests them to you, that those might be signals that this is not somebody worth working for or working with?
You're saying red flags that they should be asking us?
No.
Like,
so I'm interviewing you, the agency, and you, the agency, are saying things to me, and these things are not credible or dubious or unethical. What are those kinds of things that I should be watchful for?
I'll tell you my red flags, and I don't know if these are synonymous, so I'm going to speak for myself. No one can guarantee you're going to be on page 1. So if anyone comes and says, I guarantee I'm going to get you X amount of leads, page 1 results, run for the hills. It can't happen. And Google will tell you it's just not happening.
Another red flag is when you ask, who do you recommend? Or who's another agency that you recommend that if you're not a good fit for me, and their answer is no one. We do it all. We're the bomb, so do business with us. That's a red flag. It's also a red flag if they say Google's too difficult for you to do yourself, so you need to pay somebody to do that for you. I'm not saying that there are things that you can pay for because your time is more valuable, but understand if that's their blanket statement, you have to do business with an agency, then I would take a look at other agencies.
Absolutely, because that comes back to the return on investment, right? What's it worth for your time to do these things compared to what you can do that you're really passionate about? And I can have you number 1 next week, right? So when we're talking about some of these types of things, they're not fast. You're going to have time, and you've got somebody who says, well, it's a one-time spend and it's only this much per month. Well, that's not probably going to work for you in a short period of time, and then you're going to have a next investment in identifying what that looks like. So you're hearing some great tips all day long, and as Maria said, there's a lot of these things that you absolutely can do yourself. It's just, what's that balance for you versus your why, right? We talked about at the very beginning, what's your why? If you're passionate about what your business is, and you don't want to have to deal with this, then find somebody else who can help you with that.
Just one quick thing to add too, is as we think about other tips and things to stay away from, ask what happens when you stop working with that partner, right? So if a month, a day, a year goes by and you cancel the relationship, ask what happens. Do you get your website back? Do you get the keys? Do you get the data? Do you get the content? Or are they going to try to hold you hostage? Because there are some slimy people out there that'll say, nope, this is mine, I own all this. And then you just invested whatever amount of day, time, or money, and you're up a creek. So find out what happens when you cancel a relationship.
Yeah, and the one thing that I would add too is marketing is, at the end of the day, it's a service, right? And any good service takes time, and you're actually trading dollars for hours, right, on the agency side. So if someone comes to you and say, I can do your SEO for $200 a month, that's also an indication that they're not going to do a good quality work. So you might as well just keep that $200 to yourself.
Well, okay, so two questions. There are a lot of marketing channels. Things take different amounts of time to work. If we're talking only about search optimization and ranking, what kind of time frame should people expect to see an improvement in their rankings? What's reasonable to expect?
Typically, from our experience, what we've seen is it's kind of the history behind that site. So if someone comes to you as a brand new site, no prior history, no web presence whatsoever, now you have a ramp-up time of building that credibility in the eyes of Google, right? Or you have another site where it's been around for a while, they have a ton of content, they have credibility, it's a matter of optimizing it for performance. So those are the kind of things that kind of dictates how long it takes to see success.
Name some time frames, though.
Typically, to at least, I mean, you should be able to start seeing progress in terms of a keyword movement, things of that nature, but you're not going to see a tremendous increase in traffic and everything overnight. You're probably looking 3 to 6 months before you can actually see some success.
Yeah, we typically will allow about 6 months time frame, and one of the experiences that concerns us as an agency is the client, and we've had a few of these, where we start doing the work on the local search and they show up, they move from nowhere to top 2 in 30 days, and now they're telling everybody else about that. And they're now setting that expectation, and that's rare. It is something that normally takes, as was said, the 3 to 6 month kind of a time frame. And it's been said all day long, there's so much that goes into it. Anybody that promises you they can make it happen otherwise is just misleading.
Okay, last 1 or 2 questions about hiring somebody, or what to expect, or what to ask, what to think about. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Last, one big takeaway piece of advice, recommendation, either about hiring or digital marketing in general, that you would give these folks.
And you had to start with me, didn't you? I'll go first. Whatever you do, have fun. It's your business. If you're not having fun with it, and that means with your partners. Find partners you like to work with. People work with people. You know, someone might come in and say they've got the best product, the best tool. If you don't like working with them, don't hire them. There's plenty of options out there.
I think it's one thing to have a head knowledge, but it's another thing to actually go and execute. So I think you've heard a lot, but it all comes down to what do you actually go and do with the knowledge that you earned today.
Just stole it. Go do something. You have already invested a day of your time, and your time's valuable. You learned something today. Go do something. Take a first step. It was actually a quote that was shared earlier. I like one that's from Martin Luther King. When you start walking up the stairs, you don't see the top of it. You've got to take it one step at a time. Don't leave today and let it become an event that you just have a memory of someday. Go do something to help impact your business through what you learned today.
And whatever you do, once you get started, make sure you're measuring it. If you're not measuring, you're not marketing. You do need to know what is absolutely working and what's not, and what guidelines and criteria you're measuring that by. So make sure you know that.
Okay, thank you to the speakers and to the exhibitors and to our partners, SBDC, and all the great speakers and companies that exhibited. And thank you guys for sticking around and being here. Hopefully you got value out of it, and follow up with us and the people whose cards you got for more. And good luck.